And our second main topic today gets sent to us by Jason Tyson, who writes, "The long wait has ended, and Dune is finally here. I gotta say, while all film is subjective and I could be a prisoner of the moment, Dune to me is the greatest movie I've ever seen. Admittedly, Denis Villeneuve's movies in the past haven't worked for me, so I was skeptical going in. I thought it was fantastic. My imax was packed and I'm going tomorrow night, so I gotta ask, now that you've seen the movie, what did you think of it?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, so many of you probably know that I already put up my quick instant out of the theater review of Dune when it came out, and I'll expand on that a little bit more. So my first impression was this: the movie is done to absolute perfection. I cannot imagine an on-screen iteration of Dune being done any better than, like, I don't think it can be done better. I honestly feel that right now. Like, I'm sure it can be, but right now, after watching Dune, I've seen it twice now. My thought is, there is no possible way you can do a screen adaptation of the story of Dune better than what Denis Villeneuve just did. I'm not saying the movie is perfect, but I'm saying it was a perfect adaptation. Denis was able to capture all the essence of the Dune story to me. And here's an interesting thing too. When I took Anne to go see it with me the first time I saw it, and I mentioned this in my, I think I mentioned this in my Out of the Theater review, but Anne now feels, and Anne knew nothing of Dune. Nothing. She's never read the books. She never saw the original movie. She never saw the sci-fi, miniseries on TV. She knows nothing about Dune. She thinks it might be her favorite sci-fi film of all time now. She likes it even more than Star Wars, which, she and I may have to go to couples therapy about that, but, I'll let her have her own opinion. She thinks she even likes it more than Star Wars. But that was her feeling about it. And generally speaking, it's being received incredibly well. Like, as of right now, it's got a very strong 83, like, not, the best thing ever, but it's got a very strong 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. But more importantly than that, and this is the part that surprised me, it's got a 91% audience rating. Now, remember, on Rotten Tomatoes, audience ratings are verified, which means it's actually people who bought tickets and saw the movie. And out of those people, it's got a 91%. Now, I'll tell you why that surprises me a little bit. It surprises me a bit because most general audiences, and this isn't a knock on us general audience members, but most general audiences, when they go in to see spectacle movies like this, they want the boom, explosions, spaceships, big boobs, and tight sci-fi dresses. That's kind of what we're going for. And Dune is not really that. I mean, there's a lot of action in it, but Dune is a thinking man's sci-fi. That's how Dune is a thinking man's sci-fi. It's higher concept. It's true, science fiction. And I honestly wasn't completely sure. It's kind of the same way I felt about Eternals, that I wasn't really sure how people would embrace it. But I mean, I definitely I loved it. The way I was hanging on the entire inter-house drama between the great houses and the political intrigue and the backstabbing of the emperor and all that kind of stuff, as well as the mythology of the spice and the Bene Gesserit and what's Paul's role in all this and blah. I just thought I was enamored with it. Like, I was hanging on every freaking word. Now, I'm not going to say Dune is my favorite film of the year. It's not. That would still probably belong to either A Quiet Place 2 or Shang-Chi. Speaking of, we just want boom, karate and action. But seriously, I love those movies. Quiet Place 2 and Shang-Chi. Anyway. But I was sitting in that movie theater. That movie's over 2.5 hours long, and bang, the time just flew by. Let me talk about some of the performances too. Timothée Chalamet portrays Paul Atreides perfectly. Like, perfectly. Let me qualify that. He portrays Paul Atreides the way I always pictured Paul Atreides in my mind, the way I read Dune. Now, maybe if you read Dune a little bit, and maybe if you read Dune, maybe Paul Atreides plays out differently in your head. And that's the great thing about books. But for me, he just crushed the way I always imagined Paul Atreides being. So that was great. Very impressed with Jason Momoa. Listen, I've always liked Jason Momoa for a long time. Going all the way back to that movie he did with Stallone. I think it was called Bullet to the Head. Correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, guys, but I think it was called Bullet to the Head. So ever since I saw him in that movie, I really, really appreciated him as a performer and as an actor. And I even thought for a long time I could totally see Jason Momoa as the new Batman. And he ended up being Aquaman. But I have never, his acting has gotten better and better and better. And I've always liked him, but his performance in this was great. It was really great. Josh Brolin is always great. Up and down the line, the performances were fantastic. I love the performances. The visual effects were mind-blowing. Like absolutely stunningly mind-blowing. It felt so, like I'm not talking about in terms of spectacle, but it all felt real. Like everything from the landscapes to the ships flying over them to, like, I feel like somebody just picked up their phone and started shooting it. It just felt legit real to me. So that was absolutely extraordinary. Now, one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is the ending of the movie. It very, very much has a Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring ending. Because you remember that, right? Like Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, like it's magnificent movie. And then, Samwise and Frodo are standing there. It's like, well, there it is. There's Mount Doom. Well, that's where we're going. Sure is. All right. And then the credits start to roll. And a lot of people who didn't know the books or maybe weren't aware that this was going to be like really a 3-part story, it caught people very abruptly. It did. And I think for a lot of people going in, actually, I was talking to my buddy Matt. My buddy Matt was there at the screening that Ann and I were at as well. And Matt didn't know that this was part 1, right? Until the opening credits came up and said Dune part 1. He's like, oh. And so when the movie ended with them just kind of walking away, just like they kind of did in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, Matt was kind of like, wait, what? And I think probably a lot of people felt that way. Quite frankly, that was probably the best place to end this part. Look, Dune is one story. There's no ideal place to end the first movie. There's no ideal place to do it. And so I thought they picked the best place possible to do that. So it was the way does it feel a little abrupt? It does feel a little abrupt, to be honest with you, but it was the right place to end it. And now we've got to wait 3 years to get Dune 2. I mean, look, don't worry. Once Zaslav at Discovery gets his hands on Warner Brothers, it doesn't matter what Warner Brothers does right now. Zaslav will greenlight the sequel. Whether they greenlight the sequel before they take it over or not, don't worry about it. There is going to be a sequel coming. But it's just unfortunate that we got to wait a while to get it. Anyway, we are going to see Dune 2. I just don't know how many years it's going to be before we do that. Anyway, the question is for you guys. What did you think about Dune? Did you have a chance to see it? Again, it's not going to be a movie that's for everybody, not at all. It's a different kind of sci-fi than, other types of movies we see. So it won't work for everybody. Maybe it did for you, maybe it didn't. Whatever you guys are feeling, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.